Eric and the Legion Episode 4, or Superboy or Super Creep. Hi, and welcome back to Eric and the Legion. Today's Legion story is Superboy number 86, entitled The Army of the Living Kryptonite Men, written by Jerry Siegel, with art by George Papp. We begin as always with our splash panel, in which we see Lex Luthor, the arch nemesis of Superboy, smashing a statue of Superboy with a hammer, and on a screen behind him, we see two green golems beating up Superboy as well. So we begin our actual story with Clark Kent in the Kent house showing his trophies off to Pa Kent. Now in the trophy case, Superboy has a Valentine from Lana Lang, who, if you don't know, is Superboy has a crush on her and she has a crush on him, but she doesn't know that Clark Kent is Superboy. He also has hairs from Lex Luthor's head before Lex Luthor became bald, which is just the creepiest thing. Why do you keep human hair in a case? That's so creepy. And Pa Kent even thinks it's strange. But then he does something strange himself by pointing out that Lex Luthor and Lana Lang both have the same initials, LL. Oh my god, what about Lois Lane? Oh my god, Smallville has two L's and another two L's. Oh my god, it's all connected. It's like the same person wrote all of these stories. Then Superboy says that's not the only thing that has LL. There's also one of the Legion of Superheroes, Lightning Lad. He's also LL. And Pa Kent thinks it's the most remarkable thing. And he goes back into his room and makes one of those charts where there's strings everywhere and becomes a renowned conspiracy theorist. We flash to Lex Luthor's laboratory, in which he is doing some experiments with a helmet and some rocks, seeing if he can mind control the rocks, and he's just thinking about it, and they start orbiting his head. And he says, "This is excellent, now I'm going to be able to destroy Superboy." So we see Superboy, and he's on patrol, and he looks up into the sky and sees a very strange meteor with a giant hand propping out of it. And he says, "Who built this? This is the strangest thing I've ever seen." And he flies up to the meteor and lands, and he sees the hand clench into a fist. And he's really concerned. He says, "This is living stone. How did it become a fist?" And we see Lex Luthor in his laboratory, sitting in a chair with his helmet on and holding a fist. And on a screen we can see that the meteor is also making the fist that he is. And he's laughing. He says, "I can't believe I lured Superboy onto this meteor. It's now time to destroy him." And all of a sudden, we see several chunks of kryptonite flying from another meteor onto this meteor with the fist. And as they arrive at this meteor, they start to weaken Superboy. And then they form into these golems made out of the assembled kryptonite meteors. And Lex Luthor starts smashing a statue, just like in the splash panel, and Superboy in the background is being hit by these kryptonite men with like these baseball bats and punching them with their fists. And then back in Smallville, we see Lana Lang just jumping into Lex Luthor's open window, which if you're an evil scientist, you should probably keep your windows closed at all time. And we see that she's arrived at this room with a lever marked D lever. And she says, I wonder what would happen if I pull this lever. And then we see a flashback in which Lex Luthor has created this lever as a precautionary measure just in case he ever has to destroy his helmet invention for controlling rocks. And Lana Lang is thinking about it. She's got her hand on the lever. Should I pull it? Should I not pull it? And she says, nah. She decides this is not a good idea to just pull a random lever. And she leaves. Meanwhile, back on the meteor, we see Crypto Superboy's pet dog, flying to try and aid Superboy. But as he's flying by, the kryptonite golems that were beating up on Superboy form into one giant golem and grab Krypto out of the sky. They pull him down and trap him underneath the kryptonite rocks, which collapse and land on both Superboy and Krypto. And Lex Luthor is super stoked. He's laughing to himself in a mirror and talking to himself and saying that you're the greatest criminal of all time, Luthor, you're the best. And all of a sudden, as he's laughing to himself in a mirror, Superboy and Krypto smash through the wall. And he's shocked. He's like, what? It can't be. You're dead. And Superboy says, well, you always have to count on someone with the initials LL. This is Lightning Lad, a friend from the Legion of Superheroes. He came from the future and blasted away the kryptonite meteors with his lightning powers, then flew here with us and broke us out. And then we see Lightning Lad in the lab, and he goes, you built your machine for evil, Luthor. I'm destroying it now. And he just shoots the machine with lightning, and Lex Luthor says, those parts are made from such rare materials, I'll never be able to rebuild this again in my entire life. Then Lightning Lad gets back into his time bubble and flies back into the past, and Lex Luthor is sad. And that's it. That's the entire issue. Really short one this time. Sorry. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.